Hello, Ray. How are you today?
Fine, Anya. It's a pleasure to be on the program again.
I'm looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Oh, yes, it's been an amazing week and many new Venus revelations are going to be revealed on today's program for the first time.
Wow.
Well, let me talk about some upcoming activities. On the Friday, the 9th of September, I will be in Flatwoods, West Virginia for the Flatwoods Monster Conference, annual conference and convention. I'll be there with Dave Spinks from the Travel Channel,
All right.
and I'll be discussing um, some information that I found and revealed in book 6, Flying Saucers and the Venus Legacy. This was correspondence between Gray Barker of West Virginia, the prominent ufologist, and what he discovered about the Flatwoods Monster seen in the woods outside of Sutton in the Flatwoods, and Coral Lorenzen of APRO. And as maybe some people don't know, but I was a member of APRO, and Dr. Leo Sprinkle wrote the introduction to the Venus rising. He was the top scientific consultant to APRO, and I also worked with Gray Barker when I was a teenager. So all this information that will be presented will be uh, uncovered after after almost 70 years. So it's going to be really impressive. So that's going to be the Flatwoods. And if you look up Dave Spinks on Facebook, you can get more information about that in case uh, any viewers are going to be in the United States at that time.
All right. Dave Spinks. Dave.
Spinks, Spinks, Dave Spinks.
All right.
And also on the 12th and the 13th of February, I will be with Rob Potter and the Promise Revealed at Hermosa Beach in California, outside of Los Angeles. And I will be revealing for the first time the lost tapes of George Adamski.
Oh,
Now, these were recorded by Charlotte Blob of the UFO Information Center in Wisconsin, and she was in the inner circle with George Adamski. And in the last months of his life, in 1965, in March and February, March, and April of 1965, he did an East Coast tour with the Flying Saucer Clubs. And he spoke on various subjects such as the philosophy of life as applied to life on Venus, questions and answers about the Venusians, and many other interesting topics. And I have them all recorded, the original recordings. And I have one set to go in my tape recorder right now. These are
oh,
these are
oh, that's
these are
cute.
it.
I haven't seen that in 40 years.
So nobody has nobody's heard these things since then, and they came into my possession recently. I was given a free table at the Ohio MUFON, Mutual UFO Network Conference held in Bellevue, Ohio on Saturday the 27th. And a friend of George Adamski knew I was going to be speaking there, so made a special trip to give me a lot of material. And I'm going to give some of it to you for the headquarters of the Venus Spirit.
Oh,
When I come there. It includes photos never before seen of George Adamski. This is from Mr. Andreas, who was the uh, George Adamski's International Get Acquainted Program coordinator in Belgium. And so I have a lot of material from him, including the report from Europe in 1963 with Major Hans Petersen of Denmark, and it's just full of all this information about Adamski's 2 trips to Europe, 1959, and then later in 1962. So very precious record, and very few of these were printed. And then, of course, I have all of the copies of the UFO Contact magazine from Adamski's International Get Acquainted program in Europe. So I'm going to transfer, when I come back to Europe, I'm going to transfer those to you for safekeeping.
oh, wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Well,
Of course, I don't have a tape recorder anymore, but maybe you can have them synced
oh,
synced to a digital file.
oh yes, I'm going to try to do that. So he talks about this was in Rochester, New York, and Adamski talked about the possible explanations for seemingly strange happenings. In other words, connecting UFOs to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. And then there's the real reason for the coming of the spacecraft, why they're coming here, why the Venusians chose the Earth, and the many reasons for that in Adamski's own words. And then we have the questions and answers about Venusians, and conditions generally for life on other planets.
Mm.
He talked about that in Massachusetts at a UFO club there in Massachusetts. And then this one is this other one is he talks about the astronauts and what the astronaut, as of 1965, what the astronauts, American astronauts, had seen and discovered in outer space, and compares them with what he wrote earlier, much earlier in his books on Venus and flying saucers, about what kind of conditions would be found in outer space. For example, Adamski had said that there were lakes on the moon, and that the moon actually had a thin atmosphere, that in the lower valleys, it was even possible to breathe. And Howard Menger said the same thing. And everybody scoffed at him back then. But now the Artemis is planned to land on the south polar region of the moon, which is peppered with lakes, with frozen lakes. And when meteors are seen entering close to the moon, they're always burning up in the atmosphere. They're always seen to be burning, incandescent. And if the moon didn't have an atmosphere, they would just, plop down on the surface and form a crater, but they're burning up in the atmosphere. So they're in the sky on the moon. So obviously it must have an atmosphere. Otherwise it wouldn't do that. So Adamski was so right on with many things, and water on the moon, and slight atmosphere and everything. So he doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I know that our sister Omnek is also a great follower of George Adamski as well. So this serves to vindicate all of our work, my work on and Adamski's and Omnick's as well.
Awesome.
I'm going to play one so you could hear it. Let's see. That would be yeah. Let's see. Oh, let's see if I can get one to play. I was worried. I was listening to all of them, but I was afraid, you know, that they might be so old that I wouldn't be able to hear anything. But
this is nice weather that everybody tells me. But California will say,
oh, hard to hear.
Oh yes, that's George Adamski.
A spacecraft, as they call them, or crosses or unidentified objects.
He really sounds
on
the moon, like on the moon.
I think this year is going to be more rough than it has been in the last few years, because they're going to try to impress the officials more, and the necessity for the officials to acknowledge them to the world. But seeing them doesn't mean anything. It's like going to school and seeing a teacher and then not doing anything about what the teacher might have told them. You see him once and you see him again and again, and you see the same thing, and you learn nothing from him except that you saw him the second, third, and fourth time. But it's the message that they bring to us that once we employ the message on behalf of ourselves, is where we get the help. Anybody can set a table up for people to eat, but the people must eat if they're going to profit by it. And this is the same thing in this case.
Well, it's really not so easy to really understand it, you know.
Yes,
the quality, everything. So, you know, I had tape recorders 20 years ago myself, and I had them really digitalized by a company. So you can send them in to somebody who is doing that work, and they send it, they do the digitalization, and then we receive it back as digital files, and then we can work on them and edit them and amplify the everything, and maybe extract noises and stuff like that.
Yes, Rob and
I think that's easier. What?
Rob Potter and I were going to try to get those digitalized and put onto some kind of other system, you know, to be clarified and everything, because these are at local UFO clubs, and you can hear like silver, like in a restaurant, you can hear silverware clattering, and
yes,
sneezing and stuff in the background.
Very interesting.
He's talking about the message of the Venusians. It's like a great feast is prepared, and it's all there on the table for people to come and partake of it. They just have to do it. It's there, but they have to follow through, and listen to the message and apply it in their life if they want to benefit from it. So this is what's going on there. And let me show you some of the other stuff. This is Daniel K. Ross. He formed the International Get Acquainted program in the United States, and he had traveled to Japan to learn with Mr. Kuboto and the others there in the Adamski group, International Get Acquainted program. And what's interesting is that there was a letter from him inside the book, and he was talking about the difficulties that he had in getting cooperation with other groups, that they didn't want to hear the contactee message or rejecting the contactee message. And they admitted that UFOs exist, but they didn't believe that any of them could land and talk to anybody. But this is kind of strange, because even back in 1958, Dr. Carl Jung in Zurich told his young cousin, Miss Zinstag, that she asked him about that thing, and he said, of course, some of the UFOs are real physical objects manned by quasi-human pilots. That's what he said. And he believed that, he said, if I were on another planet and took all that time to get there, why would I just hang around in the atmosphere and never land and talk to somebody? And he said, including like an old man like myself. He winked and smiled at his cousin. And he said in an Associated Press interview on the 29th of July of 1958 in Zurich, he said, speaking about the UFOs and the occupants, that he definitely believed that a psychological explanation did not apply to many of the contactees that he had personally investigated, like Orfeo Angelucci and some others, that they were real contacts with real beings from other planets right here in our own solar system. So there's a lot to a lot to be learned. But some of the other things I could show you in this file. And it's not uncommon for followers of George Adamski to pass on their information and their files to me. And probably this has happened to Omnick too, because they trust us as the true heirs to it. So this is my friend with George Adamski at his home in Lido Loma Drive in Vista, California. Mm-hmm. And another one. This is these are in the summer of 1964.
Oh, wow.
That's Adamski. Nobody's ever seen these photos before. And this one is the woman that you see here, right here, is Alice K. Wells. She owned the diner at Mount Palomar where Adamski worked part-time, and where he would talk to people that were coming up to see the big 200-inch telescope. Mm-hmm. He'd even talk with scientists and so forth. And this is Ruth Davis. She was also a member of Adamski's inner circle. This was in June of 1964.
Wow.
My friend lived there at Mount Palomar. They had the kind of like a little commune up there. And here's my friend also with Charlotte Blob, who was the director of the UFO Information Center in Wisconsin, and then took that group down to Mexico, trying to form a communal settlement based on the cosmic philosophy of our space brothers and sisters. So there's Adamski in the middle.
Yes.
That's also in the summer of 1964. So now these are letters from the director in Belgium of the International Get Acquainted program there. And so this is when he went to visit Adamski in, this is Mr. Andreas, when he went to visit Adamski's, this is in Adamski's backyard in Vista, and he's setting up a telescope and looking through it. And then this is from Adamski's. Adamski gave him this card when he came to visit him at his home.
Oh.
So we see a typical, this is a typical Venusian scout ship. That's the Earth in the distance, and there's a typical mothership.
All right.
Or the large carrier ship.
Yeah.
I'm sure our friend Mr. Forster is
Yes.
going to see all of these too.
Yeah, good Werner.
And now this is also from the Mr. Andreas in Belgium, and you see their stationery, which is really cool. So if I could open this up here. Oh, like it's up.
Andreas Honlot, Ufologe, und the address, IGAP. I've seen that already, yes.
Oh,
Okay,
so
space.
like a typical Nordic here. And
yes.
then some people that this guy is like 7 feet tall, and these people are startled out of their wits when when he materializes in their room. So this is a letter explaining all about the activities of IGAP in Europe. Yeah. Oops. Oh, so the picture that he sent with it is very beautiful. He went to with Adamski in 1959 when he went on the world tour to Australia, and it was in Brisbane. I believe. Now I traveled to to visit my friends at UFO Research Queensland in 1988, and I worked at the World's Fair over there. And I believe that Martin Gottschall was a physicist in Australia, and he sponsored Adamski's tour there, and Roy Smith. And I believe this is Mr. Gottschall's daughter. But see, this is marked Australia. Mr. Andreas. And this is a beautiful picture. I think this is Martin Gottschall's daughter.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And there's like a plush puppy toy, right? And it reminds me of Jesus. You know how Jesus said, "Let the little children come unto me." And you could see that. I mean, that's such a beautiful picture.
Absolutely. It's just pure love.
And nobody's seen this before. This is the first time.
Wow. Thank you.
So yeah, all this other stuff is original. This is all of this stuff is all original documents.
Oh my goodness.
1950s by Adamski himself and by people in his inner circle. And it's never been published before. And so there's lots of material here that's going to go into future books. Here's something interesting. This is from Arlington National Cemetery, and George Adamski was in with General Pershing on the border of Mexico during World War I, and he's buried in the Arlington Cemetery. So here's George Adamski, the plot that he's buried in, and so forth, and a map as to how you can find his grave.
Oh, okay.
So this is all very interesting personal letters and correspondence from all the people in the, inner circle, pages and pages, just all the information about what was really going on with George Adamski. And I'm just so thrilled to get all this material.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I just went, I wasn't even speaking. I had a table at the MUFON, and then I was receive all this material. So I was just so happy about that.
Yeah.
And there was 100 people there, and I sold 14 books. And then afterwards, I checked on Amazon, and one book sold on Amazon.
Okay. Well.
So maybe from Ohio. People didn't have enough money to buy a book, but maybe that was one that bought it on that was purchasing it on Amazon. But very exciting stuff. And then I've been working with the director of MUFON for West Virginia, and we got some information about a unusual cryptids encounter in Oceana, West Virginia. This was from quite some time ago, but we researched and found newspaper clippings and interviews in the local paper, and it was a 7-foot creature that the patrolman described as like being humanoid, like that jumped 15 feet over a river, or a small river, from one riverbank to the other riverbank. And this was in the early hours of the morning, and then a posse was formed, and they were unfortunately they were shooting at it. I don't know if they hit it or whatever, but what struck me about that case is that when the Venusians were at the Highbridge Farm with Howard Menger back in 1958, one of the or two of the sisters, two sisters were they're twins. They were attending the meeting, and they reported to August C. Roberts, the official photographer that day, that they saw a Venusian jump over a 14-foot fence in the apple orchard in the back of the property. So it might have been some kind of extraterrestrial, but the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources sent an investigator out in the following week after the sighting, and they said it was some kind of a large blue heron that was migrating and possibly had a damaged wing. So I don't know if that was it or if it was an extraterrestrial, but it was an interesting case. And I wrote it up, all the details of it, which I submitted to West Virginia MUFON for their records. Then, I got a question and answer from. I got a question from Turkey, from a viewer of our program, and I'm going to take a few minutes here to pull this up. Pull up the question. One moment. This is from Mr. Haluk Sarakaya in Turkey, and he watches this program, and he said, dear friend, in this site, you may find Mead Lane's books in a booklet related to the subject of UFOs. Maybe you already know it, but in any case, needed to mention again. Michael X. Barton's book, The Space Masters Speak, Section 7 is Borealis of Venus Speaks. A Space Woman Speaks by Borealis Thor, first published in 1960. Forward of the book written by Valiant Thor. According to the book, Borealis Thor is the daughter of Valiant Thor. What I want to know is if the second book is authentic. I believe only you can provide this answer for me. Kind regards. Okay, so I looked into this matter, and I found out that the 1960 book was published by a unit of Daniel Fry's Understanding Organization. And therefore I would accept it, because Daniel Fry was one of the pioneering contactees, and he was accepted by both George Adamski and Truman Bethlehem, and they frequently went on tours together. So I would accept that. And it may be from the same entity who transmitted the revelations to Rolf Tolano in 1954 in another book called The Space Woman Master Speaks. But the newer revelations are couched in the perception of Michael X. Barton. I hope this is helpful. Your friend always, Cosmic Ray. So that was that. So we know that some people are starting to watch from different countries, and this is very exciting to me. So we're building up an audience.
Wow, amazing! Hello to Turkey.
Okay, then let's see. That was the question and answer from Turkey, and then. I'm continuing to write the articles on Dr. Frank E. Strange's, and the last one to be published was part 36. I'm writing part 37 now, and part 36 has to deal with Dr. Frankie Strange's perceptions of the Condon Report. Now, the Condon Report was funded by the United States Air Force from 1966 through 1969 at the University of Colorado at Boulder by the chief physicist, Dr. Edward U. Condon. And what Dr. Frank pointed out was that they just examined files from Project Blue Book, and but they never investigated any of the contact cases. They just looked at lights in the sky and cases that had easy explanations, such as weather balloons, cloud inversions, aircraft seen under unusual weather conditions, and so forth. They didn't look at any of the actual cases where human beings claim to have contact with extraterrestrials. And the Condon Report did a lot to harm ufology because it made the subject look silly and like science fiction. So a lot of the progress that was made since 1958, when Dr. Jung made the statement about the physical reality of saucers, and bringing many more scientists on board to seriously consider this subject, was set back by the Condon Report. So Dr. Frank Stranges was the director of National Investigations Committee on UFOs, NICUFO, and he had many scientists on his board, and they made various recommendations to counter the Condon Report. One of the things the Condon Report recommended was that Project Blue Book be closed. So it was in 1969. But the world thought that was the end of UFO investigations, but now, as of the 25th of June of 1921, with the congressional 2021 with the congressional hearings, we now know that all these individual government agencies continue to investigate UFOs on their own. The Department of the Navy, the FBI, the CIA, they still continue to investigate sightings as they came under their purview, under their direction. So this is what I'm continuing now in part 37 to look at these facts in the light of what the Air Force was up to after the Condon report came out, and there was congressional hearings right after that, as well, as which 6 scientists, prominent scientists, came to speak, some to debunk the Condon report. And that's going to be in the next article, which I should have out within the week. And it'll be on Lon Strickler's phantomsandmonsters.com, phantomsandmonsters.com, under Dr. Frank E. Strange's, The Life and Times of Dr. Frank E. Strange's God's Celestial Ambassador. What's interesting about Dr. Strange is when Omnick was on the Jerry Springer show, the other guest that was with her was Dr. Frankie Strange's.
Yeah.
So that's it for today's weekly Venus report.
The weekly Venus report. Okay, I didn't know that.
The news from Venus.
The news from Venus. Yay.
All the news from Venus.
Thank you very much, dear Ray. See you next week.
See you next week. God bless. God bless all.